I didn't know it wasn't International Mother's Day. I didn't know that it was just a UK thing. So
Well, I think, well, UK and Ireland, don't forget Ireland. Well, I think
oh
the UK
yeah.
and Ireland version comes really deep from before the religious times, the pagan
Yes.
times as such, thanking
Mm,
the mothers for bringing the family through the winter as such. And then, yeah, later Hallmark decided to do something in May. So that's where
mm.
the rest of the world comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Like a lot of things. Um, but no, well, either way, happy Mother's Day for your Irish
Thank you. Oh, definitely. I celebrated
heritage.
twice in that sense. So
Lovely. Well, yeah. I've spent the morning slaving over my wife. And by
that
that I
sounds a
mean
bit strange.
yeah, and by that I mean just like holding the baby for a few minutes longer than normal and stuff like that. So, but we've got a lovely day planned, but it is a little bit Manx and Irish weather outside,
Oh,
so we'll see how we go with that. We might go swimming.
mhm.
Baby's loving swimming at the moment, which is great. Um,
Brilliant.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So did we talk about the Norwegian Joy of Play system when we spoke last?
No, we did not.
Okay, are you aware
But
of
it's,
this?
yes, I am.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
Mm. I've only just recently become kind of exposed to it, and I've done a real deep dive on it
Mm.
all because the algorithm on the Continuum Instagram channel is basically now all made up of videos of people talking about that at the moment. So every other video that I have is based around it, and then an example of an athlete who's gone through that system and what they're talking about, and then parallels
Nice.
globally around other systems that countries have in place, including the UK. I feel like I feel like our system isn't as dramatically contrasting as potentially like the US system and other places.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a really tricky one when you first. So for anyone that isn't aware of it, they introduced about 16 years ago at a governmental level. The joy of sport, the joy of movement and play. And from school age, from grassroots, kids are encouraged to try all sorts of things. They talk about effort and perceived effort in sport and learning values and principles and being active and enjoyment. They took away up to the age of 13 international travel and competition in any sport across the entire sports kind of repertoire. No ranking systems until 11. And TAS, so transfer across sports, was very easily available, and the government subsidized all sports for kids at school levels up until 16 to give them access and to enjoy a different variety of sports and engagement. And that was 16 years ago when they first sort of did this, and since then the uptake of sport has been monumental. The number of females getting into sport is massively through the roof. And then at the elite level, Norway have gone
Mm-hmm.
across all sports. You've got golf. There's a top 10 golfer from Norway that they've never had. That Erling Haaland is one of the best football players on earth. The winter sports, the Winter
Oh,
Olympics just now, they've skyrocketed. On the track,
dominated. Yeah.
the Ingebrigtsens have come through. So the younger two brothers and the
Mm-hmm.
sister, they've come through this system. The older brother hadn't, and he is the one that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't achieved like as well as the others
Yeah.
have, interestingly. But across the board, from a country that have only got 4 million people, they are dominating sport at the top
Yeah.
level.
And I think this goes along with the line, and you'll see more conversations about now about specialization in sport at a young age
Yes.
and how
Yeah.
it is simply not, it doesn't lead to good results. It's the bottom line.
No.
And that the more diverse your experiences are of movement when you're young, the better sporter you'll be when you are an adult as such. So I
Mm.
haven't, I'm no expert in youth training and studies and stuff like that, but I am aware that there is a move now to encourage youth players not to just play the sport, but to do many other things. And I know people like Brand X, Jeff and Mickey have been, shouting this from the rooftops for the last 2 decades, as such that it's really important that children move in every possible direction you can think of.
Mm.
And I think it's interesting to see that Norway's seeing it pay off now. That
Yes.
hopefully some other countries will follow suit.
Mm. And again, we had 20 years prior, we had Australia for Sydney Olympics, they put in the grassroots system where they studied movement patterns and got kids into sport that they enjoyed doing early years in order to have this legacy effect 20 years later. And it certainly paid off with London and then Rio. But funny enough, you say about the specialization thing, the data that came through, there was a report a couple of weeks ago about this, and it was really, really big and conclusive, basically. And a lot of it was backed up as well with the data from Paris, the Olympics. So they do a survey with all the Olympians, like my wife did it when she competed. And it's basically about sport, and Paris, they were looking specifically about where the athletes had come from. And an example of this was the gymnastics. So the female gymnasts, the average age was 24 at Paris, and in Sydney it was 17. Like,
what a difference.
The difference that those 16 years had made in terms of letting them train a little bit less intense at a younger age, letting them blossom. And I mean, Simone Biles is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best gymnasts, the most dominant gymnasts of all time. She didn't compete until a little bit later, and and obviously we've got signs here of CrossFit, you know, with the younger ladies, because the physicality of the men tends to develop a little bit later, doesn't it? So the girls are put under a little bit more pressure to compete earlier on. And I'm not sure that that's a healthy environment for teen girls to be in for the most part. Obviously, you're going to get some that can manage, and fair play to them. But I think, and someone talked about this a little while ago, I think it might have been Ollie Mansbridge when we were talking about this in person. It was, why isn't there a collegiate level, like up to 21 age bracket? And I think it does make a lot more sense to have that in now. And again, we're only 20 years old as a sport, so these things are going to take time to come through. But I think at some point we may well see that come through as a really strong possibility for especially the girls. But the boys don't even have a look in until they're 22, 23.
No, absolutely not. And I completely agree with you. And you know, it reminded me of a story. I was judging semi-finals at the French a couple of years ago, and I had an English athlete, and she was under 18 as such. And she's there on the main floor, you know, with 20 other, you know, elite athletes. And her dad comes up to me afterwards to say thank you for making it easier for her, that I calmed her down. And I'm thinking, okay, this is great. Thank you for that. But at what point is it not okay to put a 17-year-old on the floor in those circumstances? Yeah. Would it not have been better that she was with a group of her age as such? You know, as you said, the collegiate league or something like that, because I think we forget how much impact being on the world stage has on people, young people who are still developing and figuring out who they are in life.
Yeah, I mean, physically, hormonally, and mentally, obviously, the females develop earlier than the men and the boys. We know that. It's scientific principles.
But the frontal lobe still doesn't fully develop until our early 20s. Regardless. So there is something for, you know, under 21s. There is a reason why 21 was originally an age for lots of things, to be able to do lots of things, because they realize, oh, this is when the behavior of somebody changes. The understanding of consequences.
Yeah, that's a big thing with my kids at the moment, although they're 7 and 8 and 0. It's the fact that if A and B equals C, it's like there will be consequence, whether positive or negative, to every action. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There is always outcome. You know, so it took me a while to understand that. But CrossFit was a guiding force for me in that sense. I found CrossFit at 25, which is where the frontal lobe was just about ready to. It took a while for me, but just at the point that happened, I found CrossFit for myself, and it is really shaped the way that I feel about everything outside of the gym: relationships, work ethic, timekeeping, understanding of different people, and you know, the coaching side of it has definitely made me see people differently. And just going back to the Paris thing before I forget, you talked about specialization, and the data from Paris. the average age across the entire Olympian group that went to Paris, which was something like 1,500 athletes. More than that, must be more than that. It was 15.9. So it is about, it was nearly 16 years old. It was like 15 and 10 and a half months. But you think about that. You think about the amount of parents that are driving home this specialization from a young age to get their kids into sport because of systems, because of pressure, because of the belief that they have to. The average age of specialization was almost 16.
Yeah. And it brings an interesting discussion because it's also a social expectation that if you want to be an elite footballer, that you have to be there training from the age of 6. Yeah. And then the question also comes to like how much of their identity is also wrapped up in that sport. Yeah. If during their formative years, from 12 to 18, when they're really figuring out who they are as a person, if their only focus is one sport, what then happens when they're in their 20s and that sport is no longer there?
Yeah. When that rug's pulled under their feet.
Yeah, that they've blown their knee and they'll never be a top sporter.
Yes.
Well then.
Amy Kringle's a good example, right? So she's from the Isle of Man, where I'm from, and she went to the games for the first time 2 years ago. When she moved to Ireland, and it gave her more opportunity to travel and go to qualifying competitions and stuff. But she was an all-round athlete from the age of like 5 or 6. And what the island does really well, a bit like Norway, it gives kids this insane access to sport across the board. It's government subsidized, and we punch way above our weight in terms of athletes that we produce. Number 1 ultra runner on earth, female, Sarah Webster, she's the Manx. Mark Cavendish, the best tour rider of all time, Manx. Amy Kringle, top 5 athlete on the earth, Manx. It produces these athletes out of a population of 84,000 people, right? And I've said this for quite some time. It's the access to sport from a young age that's affordable, and it encourages kids to try everything. It encourages them to try this. And Kringle, from a young age, excellent swimmer, excellent athlete, track athlete, did what she wanted, found CrossFit. I think she was 15, 16. Her friend Sean, that still goes to CrossFit now, he introduced her to it. And it took her 10 years from starting CrossFit to when she got to the games. 10 years. But she took that amount of time to get there. And she's a very good example of, she's peaking now at the age of 25, 26, 27, not 19, 20, 21. She's relatively injury-free. She hasn't sustained any big dramas. She's enjoying it. She's found this love for the sport that she has. So she's a very good example of someone that's maybe adapted later on. There's no rush, there's no early pressure. And football was a great example that you gave, because I've got a friend actually whose son he plays for, he's currently at Chelsea, but he's 11 years old. And now I'm 41. I remember this 30 years ago when I was that age. Of the pressure was there. The scouts are coming to watch. You've got to look at this. You're going to have to go for Chelsea because it was the nearest club to us. Chelsea tryouts, and then this, that, and the other. And you've got to get in early. And there was that example of the Neville brothers that got scouted late on, and they were 15.
I know. It's bizarre.
That should be normal. We should allow our kids to thrive and prosper and enjoy movement, learn new movement patterns. And bringing this back to CrossFit, what I love about the fitness in 100 words, right, is that the first bit and the last bit, and I said this to Greg when I met him, which was the best 40 minutes of last year, except when my daughter was born, obviously.
So careful here next.
Yeah, the first and last bit of the 100 words are the bit that are in your control as a human. The middle bit is all what you do at the gym with CrossFit and in the affiliate. The first bit is what you're eating. And the last bit, regularly learn and play new sports. You don't do that at the gym. And the regularly learn and play new sports is completely forgotten about because of the sport of CrossFit. Because people get so refined in the sense that, this stuff that I do at the gym, I can compete in that. Now, I'm not saying people not to do that. I think it's an excellent expression and a formalized version of what we do. But I love the fact, and Stephen Rayner's an excellent example of this, one of our friends on the show. This week, he's done the Open, he's done a strongman competition, and he's done a High Rocks. And he's done all three, and he's been able to adapt, overcome, do well at it, and push because he is a true methodology. Yeah, methodologist. Yeah. Is that what we should call ourselves? Methodologist?
I believer in the methodology, practicing in the methodology. Look, it reminds me of, I was just talking to two members recently, and they went on their they're in their late 40s, and they went on their second surfing holiday as such. And they were like, we just carry our boards down to the beach. Everybody else is complaining about how heavy they are. And, you know, we just pop ourselves up, and we have all these control of our bodies that a lot of other people don't. And that their instructors were surprised at how quickly they picked it up at their age. But it's simply because they're used to moving through the space. They're used to moving their bodies. They're used to trying different things. And I think if we encourage our members to go try new sports and stuff like that, it's only a win for everybody at the end of the day.
We create competency at our gym.
Yeah.
People walk in less competent than they are when they walk out. And I love that, because it's like, I would argue that people that do CrossFit are more likely to reverse park into a space than other people. because reverse parking into a space shows that you're willing to put the effort in prior and reap the reward later. So when you pull out of a car park space and you've reverse parked in, you just get to go out easily. Whereas if you've gone straight in, it might seem fine and easier at the time when you first go in, but you're going to have a nightmare later on. So I like to think that, you know, there's a competency level there. I'm not saying people that don't go in reverse are bad people.
Well, but, I generally, do you know why I don't reverse park often? Because then I can't get to my boot easily enough.
The trolley. Yeah.
I have a dog. So, yeah.
Yeah, my wife says the same thing. But on principle, I would rather shuffle past with the bags to the boot and then the boot not really open properly. I'd rather do that and show off that I reverse parked.
I think we will definitely have a conversation about this maybe after you watch Louis' Manosphere documentary.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about that. Do you know what? I'm not going to talk about it because we said I'd wait till I've actually seen it to actually give a informed opinion on it. But over the last sort of couple of years, and it was since that what was it called? Adolescence. Since that program that came out a year or so ago, and I coach a beginners lifting class at the National Sports Centre to a group of women. So it's Learn to Lift for females over 50, right? And when that came out, they came in, and the opinions that came out of it was, what is wrong with these boys that are doing this? Why are they like this? And my take on it at the time was, they're lacking positive role models. But young teenage boys are what they're crying out for is discipline, order, role, value, worth. They want role models to show them how to be a man. And it's okay to be a masculine man. But what is that? What is masculinity in the modern era, in the modern form? And the only people... And getting also positive feedback and positive encouragement, and it's not just all negative, you know, put other people down so you can go higher. It's like, okay, but how do we make everything better? Yes. Yeah. We've got a lot to contribute. Young men and teen boys have got a lot to contribute. They have a lot of worth and a lot of value. And we need we need men to show them that what they should aim for in different aspects, whether it's my client who's one of the best, he does a lot of AI programming for Amazon. He works his arse off. He manages teams. He's an excellent leader in his field. That's an example of a masculine, you know, of a man with masculine traits. He listens, he encourages, he has value there. You don't all have to be a grunting heave-ho man that works in a gym to be a man. And what we really need to make sure of is that we don't pigeonhole, and this is the example that I gave. What we've ended up with is these these people online, after clout and creating content at the extreme level, being the only exposure to being told what a man is. And that's what
Yeah,
attracted them that way. And to me, it seems
absolutely.
obvious.
And I think it's the polarization of it as well, and not
Mm,
understanding that there are so many different grays, shades of gray when it comes to being a man or being a
mm,
woman or being however you identify, is that we forget there in every segment of that gray line, people are missed out along the way,
mm,
not seen, not heard, not supported as such. And I completely understand where the recent push for recognition of masculine men comes from, because you're right, there simply weren't what I would say positive role models in that space.
mm.
So I would
Yeah.
add we're
Mhm.
lacking that in a lot of other spaces, but that's a whole discussion for another time. But
Yes.
what your comment made me remind me of today. I had a coaching session with a coach, and we were discussing, challenging situations. How do you deal with them? And she had this week she gives the teenage lessons, kids lessons. This was about, and she had a trial class person coming in, seeing what it was like. It was a 7-year-old boy. Anyway, she had them working in groups, sharing, the training barbell, whatever, and the equipment. And he refused to do it. And he went and sat down in the box. And she's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And she's trying to think of lots of different ways of getting him involved. And then the father comes up and goes, "Yeah, he doesn't want to share the same equipment as a girl." And she's just stood there going, "What am I meant to do with this?"
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the boy goes, "Yeah, I think I'll just do basketball." And she was like, and we're back to this whole thing of, there are people who do not fit in with your vision and your mission and your working. And there comes a point where you should not spend energy or concern about them. Maybe from a bigger societal perspective, yes. But at
Mm,
that moment, as a coach, you just have to go, okay, but you're not our person. The fact that the father allowed the boy react that
mm.
way says
Yeah.
a lot about the situation. So
He's the enabler, and that kid has learned that behavior. I don't begrudge a 7-year-old of opinion. Like,
absolutely, there's no, yeah, exactly. That's learned behavior. It's not like something
yeah,
else.
yeah.
But yeah,
Like, and it should be the masculine, and this is generally speaking. Obviously, there's going to be nuance, and there's going to be grey, and there's going to be differences here. But generally speaking, when you've got that archetypal male and female role model at home, I've got 2 daughters and a son. I hope that both of us are going to demonstrate what a strong adult human should look like: respectful,
Mhm.
has values, has purpose, is community based, and is thriving as part of that. Um,
You see,
it's
I would argue it slightly differently, Jake. I know we're going
okay.
completely off topic now, but I would argue as if you come from a home that is supportive, that encourages your curiosity and
Mhm.
grows care as such, you can find role models outside of your home that you are missing, maybe, or
Yes.
you want. Yeah, absolutely. I do not believe that every child has to come from a male female home to be
No.
um, all rounded, a caring
Mm,
person, a positive contribution to society and stuff like that. But I do believe that it takes a village to raise a child,
mm,
if
yeah.
that makes sense. And
Oh,
we
for
need
sure.
to make sure that the right role models are in our villages for our kids. Now,
Hmm.
there's an issue why at school, primary schools especially, there's a lot of female teachers. A lot of boys have a tough time
Mm,
because there's no male teachers, male role models.
yeah.
But it's also anybody who um, might be in a minority, whether it's to do with race, whether it's to do with gender, whether it's to do with physical disabilities, mental disabilities.
Mm,
If they don't have the right role models in the village, it makes life so much tougher.
yes. And see, this is a topic for a much bigger discussion. But
Yeah.
just like we've said about the men have to step up and demonstrate role model behavior for young men that are going off the rails, I feel like a little bit of the onus on all the other groups that you've just mentioned. There needs to be a
Mhm.
step up for that. There needs to be this concerted
Absolutely.
effort. And like Abby said, we talked about this last time we were on. Like Abby said, it's not finger pointing, it's not blame game, it's not your
Nope.
rubbish person. It's highlighting that there needs to be this push,
Yeah.
this effort,
Action.
this action.
Yeah.
Great word.
Yeah.
Curiosity and action. Those are two
Yeah.
great words that you talk about quite a lot. And I do feel like we're at a point where I think a lot of talking has been done. We've done a lot of discussion, and this is politically
Mhm.
as well. There's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of elevation, there's a lot of promotion, there's a lot of debate. But
Also,
eventually, and this is why,
committees who go and get information and stuff. But yeah.
yeah, but eventually, like you just said, you need action. You can't
Yeah.
just. This is why I don't get engaged with politics a lot, because it's just blah, 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 blah. Like talk. We're going to do this. We're going to set up a committee to set up a committee, and just all what I want is like this is why I love the gym. People walk in and they get shit done, and it's so simple. You walk in, take action, and then you go home, and that I love that. And if it wasn't, wouldn't it be amazing if life was that easy? Yeah.
Life's
Talking
as
of
easy
action.
as you make it. But anyway,
Yeah. Exactly.
shall we get back on topic?
Yeah, let's talk about the L3, shall we?
Yeah.
So I'm on a. Have you heard of the app called School?
Yes.
SKOOL. Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I was added to a group a few weeks ago of CrossFit people. So CrossFit owners, CrossFit coaches, that kind of thing. It's a relatively small group. There's about 60 of us on there. And one of the questions that came up was about the L3. And it was where do I go to learn? What do I
Yeah.
need to do? Anyone got any advice on the L3? And it was like it was a voice that was like, oh, that's how I think. That's how I feel. And then everyone that I've spoken to prior to that comment says the same thing. And I felt that way. And we've talked about this obviously off air. With the L1, you've got the L1 handbook, which I keep bringing up. It's that thick and everything's laid out. You turn up for a weekend and you go through it, and then there's an exam. The L2, similar kind of thing. The L2, there's a prior necessity to have actually coached and to go and so you've got experience walking into it. Whereas the L1, you don't necessarily have to have had any experience with your coaching. It's obviously advised, but you don't have to be. The L3, quite clearly, you should be an experienced trainer, coach, CrossFit coach to go in, not a coach, but a trainer. However, there's a big difference between having done the L1 and the L2 and the preparatory work spelled out for you in a bound folder where you can flick through and read the content and then go and attend a course where you're coached by seminar staff and go through it. The L3 is extremely different. There's no formalized thick book that cover to cover is done. Then you've read it all and you're done, arguably.
Yeah. So this is where I want to read out the purpose of the certification from the handbook. And it's like the certified CrossFit trainer credential allows the experienced individual to demonstrate advanced coaching knowledge and commit to a long-term standard of professional accountability. The purpose of the certification program is to ensure that the individual possesses the standard knowledge and skill set required to train clients effectively. That's what the goal of this certificate is. Yeah. Up until this point, we have been spoon-fed. These are the learning goals, and this is the material to hit the learning goals. Yeah. That's what we have. With the level 3, if you go to certificate handbook, there are the learning goals there. There are very clear expectations in it. And I think if you go down towards I'll quickly get to it. Page 16. It gives you the content outline.
There we go.
This should be your holy grail as such. This describes what they expect from you from a content-wise. Not only does it do that, it tells you what percentage of the questions is on each topic. So you can see that if you go down a bit, you can see that the majority of the test questions are on training, evaluating athlete movements and facilitating correct movement. Yeah. So this already gives really good guardrails of what they're looking for. The problem a lot of people have is that certainly for the last 15, 20 years in educational systems, everything has been, as I was saying, learning goals, material, they're connected. Yeah. Back in the old day, it was like, oh, these are the learning goals, go figure it out yourself. So the expectation here is as a coach, you need to go and figure some of this stuff out yourself. They do provide a list of, I think, 160 odd different articles and videos and stuff that touch on these topics. But, and this is where a lot of people get confused. The CrossFit, the exam is not on the 160 articles and videos and stuff like that. It's on this. It's on what's here written about in the outline. A lot of this is already covered by your level 1 and your level 2. It's about digging deeper into the kids side of things, the aging athlete side of things. If you've been at all curious as a coach in the last years, you would have delved into all of these things to some form or another. Yeah.
See, yeah, and I bang on. From
I just wanted to set the stage as such.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I mean, absolutely spot on. My first question around that would be, so obviously at this point we're marrying up the ability to understand what CrossFit want you to be like and your experience as a trainer.
Absolutely.
And are they the same thing?
Yeah. They're probably not going to be exactly aligned as such, which is where people have to be careful with the CrossFit level 3, that you go out of your way to deeply understand where CrossFit's coming from.
Yeah. And so that I think that's where there's an exposure there to how far you veered away from the methodology.
Yeah.
And the people that will pass this first time and go through are the people that either have kept to the letter and have lived the methodology and breathed it, L1, L2 ingrained, and they've done it perfectly, or not perfectly, but close to perfectly for their experience. They go into this and they know it because they've lived and breathed it immaculately. Or people that have studied what exactly it is CrossFit would like them to be like, adapted and understood the material as per what CrossFit would like.
Yeah. And one thing I want to add is CrossFit isn't very much we are the only methodology. I mean, they add in conjugate methods and stuff like that. So there's and pose methods for running. So they are all encompassing in that sense, but it has to be still filtered through constantly varied functional fitness at high intensity. It still has to be filtered through work capacity over broad time and modal domains. It has to be filtered through those things because they are the guiding principles of CrossFit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as you manage to figure out, okay, I've figured out this thing, I use this thing. Is it measurable, observable, and repeatable? Yeah. If it's not, it doesn't fit within the vision of CrossFit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it promote increased work capacity, blah, 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 over your lifetime? Doesn't really? Okay. Is it a functional movement? Is it just a bicep curl? CrossFit are not saying there's anything wrong with the other things, but they are saying to get most bang for your buck, follow the tenets of CrossFit and you'll get there. So you have to understand and live those tenets.
So, slight tangent. Do you think that the sport of CrossFit somewhat deviates people away from this?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. If you look, and by the sport, I mean, if we look at what most throwdowns or community events and stuff like that are, it isn't a test over broad time and modal domains. Logistically, it's just not done. Yeah. I also believe that a lot of affiliates have followed the pattern of a 1-hour class, but that doesn't always let us do broad time domains. As such, we believe everything should be fit in. Now, CrossFit does believe that you get most bang for your buck between 12 and 15-minute workout, for example. But you have to appreciate the bigger picture here. And
Mm.
the idea is, health over lifetime.
Mm. Yeah.
That's not necessarily, and so that's where the discussions come in for example, the aging athlete, being aware of what volume looks like for an aging athlete versus an odd volume for a 21-year-old, being
Yeah.
aware of these differences. And so the volume of a 21-year-old would devastate the body of an 80-year-old.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds obvious, but we have to bring that with us.
In practice, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the theory and the practice, and this is what I love about the L3. And I think I positioned it mentally. I don't know if I can articulate this well, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the alignment of the practical with the theoretical at the L3 level. You have to have both, and you have to understand both, because I need, in my head, I need to recall. It's like a method actor, right? I need to recall real life situations in order to bring forth like what people want to hear and what to see. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm dependent on that. I would not be able to pass the L3 had I not worked with my mother-in-law, who's currently 68, last week, is a games athlete 2
Mm-hmm.
times, won Wadapalooza, but I'm currently working on her training load and volume and intensity in discussion with her and her coach,
Yeah.
because I see it day to day in the gym, how it affects her being around 25-year-olds that are training at 3 times the perceived intensity, but
Mm-hmm.
she is there an hour before mobility, warming up her clean patterns, because the 25-year-olds just walk in and clean twice her weight without warming up. And then they
Yeah.
go off to work straight after without cool downs, without mobility, without, she does
Mm-hmm.
pliability, I think it's called pliability, whatever ROMWOD is now. She does that for an hour afterwards on the mat afterwards. So that,
Mm-hmm.
and touch wood, she has never had an injury in CrossFit. She's
Yeah.
been doing it for 7 years, and it's 8 years. She hasn't had a single injury, purely based on the fact that she takes the time, she prepares, she goes through. But at the moment, we're having this big discussion because she's an athlete through and through. She always has been. She won the British champs in weightlifting in the 80s. She was a marathon runner. She's been an athlete through and through. And the point now that she's at is we are working our best to maintain what she has and to keep that performance level as she starts to go into her 70s.
Yeah.
And it's a really tough point for her because her snatch isn't increasing. She's not getting that top end, but her force production and her workload is increasing to an extent because her power output in certain workouts, like Fran is a perfect example, the weight isn't going up, but her time is
Time is.
creeping down. So we're understanding these principles in real time. And for me, because I'm getting to experience that, when I go to do the L3, I have this real life example of where I can. And yeah, Trish is saying it, Monica, it's freezing time
Yeah.
is an impression of progress at a certain point, and we need to get our heads around it
Absolutely.
as trainers, that the demands and the needs of the 68-year-old compared to the 21-year-old that's gung-ho coming in and cleaning 120 kilos without a warm-up because he can, but then he gets injured about a month later, than a 68-year-old female games athlete. We need to look differently at these different people, and it by degree,
Yeah.
not kind. Yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think this is something that when people are studying, preparing for the level 3 as such, who've done their level 1 and level 2, you have to remember that the level 1 is really like the remembering and kind of level of learning as such, maybe a bit of understanding in there, but it's not really that deep. And the level 2, you have remembering, you've understanding, you've a bit of application, like when you have to spot the flaws and stuff like that, but it's not really much on the application side. But the level 3, it's not the remembering and the understanding, it's the application and analyzing side of things. So you're going to be told, you have an apple and an orange, a banana and a pear, and this is the situation. What, as a coach, is the best answer? Yeah, that's the type of questions. It's not like, what did page 43 of the scientific report, state was the best solution. That's not what this test is about. It's about the application and analyzing part of things. But to be able to do that, you need to understand the methodology. You need to have made it your own. Yeah, in whatever way that might be. Like you were saying, Jake, understanding the difference in needs of a 68-year-old versus a 21-year-old. But there are going to be, not all of us have the privilege of coaching wide ranges of different groups, kids, masters athletes, things like that. And that's where you maybe have to go special effort and, go read the kids course, understand it. What's it saying to you? Go read the aging athletes PDF. What does that mean? What would that mean in the future for your members? Yeah. Every single time you read something like this, what does that mean for me as a coach? What does that mean for my members?
Do you put any emphasis on the, like the extra courses that we have? So Spot the Floor. Do you think doing a section of those, and potentially for me, for example, it might be, I've noticed in my repertoire of knowledge, because this is a really it's when you have to go into yourself and actually address your gaps, just like an athlete, rather than just focusing on stuff that you already know. You need to do the stuff that you're not good at in order to get anywhere and improve.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of parallels there. So if I was to look at across the board areas that I feel like I'm not necessarily up to date with the CrossFit definition, let's take, for example, nutrition, for example. Would one of the courses on the CrossFit nutrition guidelines, which I know there is one, would it be worth me investing my time and money into doing that course in preparation for the L3?
Oh, we back?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what happened there.
Sorry. I'm back too. I don't know what happened there. The universe decided.
Yeah, maybe it hates nutrition. Yeah, so I was just saying, so if there was, would that be a good example?
I think nutrition is a great example. I think if you look at the course content and you look through things, you go, oh, I'm not too sure about this thing. My advice is, yes, obviously there's CrossFit online courses that help you develop your knowledge as such. Yeah, the content side. But even better is, why not figure out a way that you can share that content to your other coaches in your box? Because if you teach them, then you are understanding the material deeply. And this is exactly what I did with the anatomy side of things, because my history is, I hated biology in secondary school. I hated learning names of things. I liked understanding. I was not learning things off by heart. But I forced myself to then give an anatomy course to the other coaches in the box I work in. Yeah. To figure out, okay, but how do we apply all this knowledge to our members? Yeah, the different proportions in the body, and going through that, because that meant I did a deep dive, and it meant I had to understand a bit more than what I was teaching them so that I could answer questions. And that helped me so much in figuring out, okay, this is how we apply it.
Yes. Good.
But it's this. But you're asking about Spot the Floor and things like that. I think one of the most underused courses in CrossFit is the Spot the Floor course, simply because you're seeing an athlete you don't know doing something, and they're not always the obvious things that we see with a lot of our members. Oh, hips aren't hinging back. Okay, yeah, but these are more subtle things often. And I would always recommend people to do Spot the Floor. If you do not do programming in your own box, or you don't nerd out on programming, probably the programming course is a good idea, because then you get an idea of what we mean by volume, what we mean by constantly varied, things like that.
Yes.
Understanding what a sprint would look like versus, a long workout.
One thing that I've taken, actually, Gareth Waite from CrossFit UK and box owner in Birmingham, the biggest thing that he said for me to do, specifically me, was to look at CAP every day. Have a look at the breakdown.
Yeah.
And I'll just bring up, for anyone that doesn't, obviously, can't have access, this isn't giving away anything. Yeah, but this is today's workout. So looking, because CrossFit will program a CrossFit workout, right? So that any of this can be broken down. Now, what I love about this is this amount of information historically was never given, right? And I'll go to metric because I'm not from the US. Handstand walks 47.7 meters.
That's a
So
different
it will give,
discussion we'll have at some point.
yeah, that's for another time, I think. So RX Intermediate and Beginner, which is fantastic that's available now. About the workout, there's a video that goes with that. There's intended stimulus, there's coaching goals, there's scaling opportunities, movement substitutions, logistics.
It is a gold mine. It is an absolute gold mine. I will, however, say go back and read your level 1 programming and stuff before you go diving into this, because you have to understand what is the underlying principles in this.
Yes.
Because certainly a great thing you can do is take 3 days of programming. What would you program for the 4th day? Oh, what did CrossFit program? Why did they choose that? What were their choices? Where did that come from? If you go back to when they had the guest programmers, they had balls the 2 weeks and stuff. They all did videos describing why they chose those things. Yeah, they're also great resources. But since you have CAP open, or you have the affiliate toolkit open, can you go to learning the movement library as such?
Yes.
It should be, I think it's just under CAP.
Training plans, coaching movements.
That's the one.
Oh, cool.
This now, because you're asking, so the main part is teaching. Yeah. This is teaching. This is understanding your points of performance, understanding your common errors, understanding the general cues that work with maybe 80% of the population to fix those common errors. Yeah. This is something you should be living and breathing.
Wow, look at
should be living in. Yeah, you should be living and breathing every day when you're coaching. And I understand as coaches, we sometimes not get lazy, but we get into habits, old habits, and we stop being maybe relentless with our coaching, or virtuous with our coaching, or virtuosity with the movement. But for your level 3, you need to understand what these options are, what it should look like, what the points of performance are, what possible progressions that you have.
Wow.
Don't buy it, Jake. But I mean, this is something that they've started doing in the last 6 months, creating this resource. And it is something that all coaches should dive into. And if you're not an affiliate owner, you still have access to this, as long as your affiliate owner has signed you up as a coach. You have full access to this, full access to CAP.
This is so valuable. So valuable. And
I wish CrossFit would shout this from the rooftops that they have this at the moment.
I don't know why they haven't. And I'll tell you what, we'll clip that, right? Because we need to do our best in terms of getting this out in the media. This is the kind of media that we need to be putting out here, because this will up the game. And people look at the surface value of how we promote CrossFit, how we get it out there. Yeah, the sport's awesome. But if you go deeper, if we make the coaching standard better at the affiliates, everything else improves. Everything above that improves.
A rising tide raises all ships, as they say. But this is such an easy, free way for affiliate owners to support their coaches.
The program resource is my favorite part of the affiliate toolkit. Absolutely.
I think really coaches and affiliate owners do not use this as much as they should. Often, and I get it, they looked at it maybe 2 years ago and, oh, there's nothing for me here. Yeah. And they don't necessarily, and I know they get their update emails from the country managers and stuff, but a lot of them don't open those emails. There's enough other emails to open. So they don't realize that this resource is there for them.
Incredible. Well, I'm going to spend some time today.
You've gone quiet, Jake.
I'm just thinking of all the possibilities that we could do. Now, so my question here, the GH sit up, I since I started CrossFit, since I started learning, since I did the L1, I know it's core to extremity. I understand it, but for me, I can't get my head around why we do GHD setups. I can't, for the life of me, but it's always
Have you ever
felt
seen
like,
have you ever seen a kid hanging in a climbing frame? They
yeah,
do
and then
this.
yeah, I know. It's the fact. I think it is because it is called a GHD, glutes and
Yeah.
hams developer sit up. It's like it's like I don't like soup, right? I cannot deal with soup because it doesn't know what it is. It's not a food. It's not a drink. You have to drink it with a spoon. It's weird. And I've always had this same thing about GHD setups. I can't get my head around it, but I get the
Mhm,
value. I see the purpose. It's just
mhm.
one of those little weird things that I have.
That's
There are a
cool.
couple, yeah. But I understand that it's an essential part. They teach it on the bloody L1, so it's it's quite important.
Yeah. But I'm also aware that a lot of affiliates don't have GHDs anymore as such. So it
It
takes a lot of room.
it
Yeah.
does, and we at the average affiliate, you can only have one in the corner. You can't really program it as a class, in a class
Mm.
environment unless you've got a giant one. I scaled them to parallel at my age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, didn't Rogue do a? There's a floor based one. Oh, I tell you what, I did see. Have you seen the wall mounted one that folds out?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it is a thing of beauty. I'll forward it. I haven't got it with me now.
Perfect.
But there's a brand. I can't remember. I'll tell you where it was.
Sting spots, maybe, or
It was on the affiliate owners WhatsApp group a couple of weeks ago. They were
mm.
talking about it, and it's a wall mounted. I think it's UK SF or whoever they are. They've done a wall mounted one where you clip it out like the squat racks and you bring it out
Yeah,
and click and it becomes a GHD. And when you're done with it, you fold it and the footprint in the affiliate is tiny.
isn't it?
Um, yeah. Oh, Stephen Rayner's here. We haven't touched the rig.
Uh,
Yeah. So, but there's ones that you literally wall mount. So
mhm.
the footprint's tiny. It's awesome. Anyway, so
Back to the L3.
yeah, back to the L3. Sorry. All right. So I've got mine booked for May. So I've got about
Yeah.
7.5 weeks.
Mhm.
I'm going to lean into nerding out, as you called it earlier, about
Yeah.
my position. So obviously the handbook is available. I will look through the
The
top line and
topics.
go into those.
Mhm.
Um, because this is one of the questions that one of the guys had in the group was if you
Mm.
do have a shorter period of time before you go into it, the priority,
Mhm.
if you had to choose one top line bit of advice for someone, we've been through the fact that there's a lot of advice to go with it, but if
Yeah.
there was one thing going into it that you would place the priority on and the emphasis on prepping you,
Mhm.
what might that look like?
The level one guide, inside and out.
Okay.
Yeah. And make sure everything you answer is filtered through that lens.
Yes.
Yeah. But I will add a second thing and the
Hmm.
second thing is, it's a very specific test environment as such. And Pearson VUE, they offer a trial test environment. Go and do it. Figure out how you navigate between questions. Figure out how you flag questions so you can go back to them. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. That's a big thing because,
Mm.
you're there for nearly 4 hours as such, maybe. And you want to spend your time wisely. You do not want to spend your time figuring out how you're meant to remember which questions you haven't answered yet. Mm. This, the third, I want to talk quickly about taking the test, if that's okay.
Please do. Yeah.
Because certainly in UK, Ireland, Europe, although we've done multiple choice tests before, our educational system is not built around them. We
Mm.
generally are not used to a in-depth understanding, analyzing tests based on multiple choice. Therefore, we come across questions that we think, is this a gotcha? I think they're trying to catch me out here as such.
Mm.
And that's our first reaction to it. And it's not, it's a standard way of asking the question to make sure you truly understand it. There are no questions designed to catch you out. They're designed to truly understand, truly discover, do you understand the thing? Yeah. So
Okay.
when taking the test, my advice is If you can answer the question confidently in 15, 30 seconds, answer it, move on to the next. Yeah. Go one pass through all the questions, get the easy, clear ones out of the way so
Okay.
that you have, so that then you go back to the ones that need a bit more thinking and going, oh, what are they really asking me here? I think there's two questions two answers I have to choose from. How am I going to choose between the two? Yeah. That would be my general advice. There
Great
have
shout.
been, I know of coaches who've discovered that they've, 20 minutes left in the test and they still have a whole chunk of questions they haven't gone through because they have lost time early on. Yeah. Just go through everything so you have an idea of what they're asking you. You have to
Okay.
pay to reset. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you do. But if you do not pass the test, you are told what your results are in the sections that you failed. So you know how close, well, you know roughly what was going on.
Okay. That's great advice, because that's kind of like the way that my brain works as well. Like I'll get the stuff out the way with, but I wouldn't have even thought to have done that in this environment, that's such a good bit of advice.
Yeah.
I would go, right, question 1, fixate on that. Question 2, fixate on that. Rather than go flick, okay, girl wad, 5 rounds, 400 run, 15 overhead squat. Nancy, cool, right, next, right, like next, and then keep going through to the ones and get them out the way with. Gives you a bit of confidence as well.
Exactly, and it also gives you an idea of where you're going to have to spend your time, because there's the option obviously of skipping. There's the option of skipping a question. There's an option of putting a red flag on a question. And I know what I did and what others have done is put the red flag on the question that it's going to take more time and analysis, that you have to get the pen and paper out and you're going to have to calculate things as such. It gives you a good overview. Okay, where's my time going to disappear?
Right. And oh, hello. Have I gone funny? Think I might have disappeared.
I keep disappearing. You keep disappearing. I use the word disappear, we disappear. Yeah.
So the examination environment is obviously a lot different from a lot of coaches are used to. So I don't know about other people. I feel like I escaped the corporate world and the by becoming a CrossFit owner and a coach. Dipping our toe back into that might seem a little bit daunting. It might seem like it adds a certain amount of pressure, and pressure's good. We talk about this in our workouts, the open workouts. Seeing it on a Thursday and not sleeping very well because you're worried about, when am I going to do it? How well am I going to do? Like that kind of thing. Where's this going to go wrong? Fixating. We do well with pressure. And I think people like myself need to remind ourselves that we spend every bloody day in that environment creating this discomfort, for people, and knowing and understanding that that's where we thrive and we develop. Yet this specific environment for me is hell. Being sat in a quiet room, being examined on something written down, for me, that's like the opposite of productive. But it's a really good example of where we tell our members and our people, you need to get uncomfortable. That, this is the whole learn and play new sports thing. Like for experienced coaches, we need to put ourselves in the position of a newbie. And I think this doing the L3 and having it in mind has really given me another sense of, this is what it feels like to be out uncomfortable. This is what it feels like to not know what you're on about and be tested in certain things.
Yeah. But this is back to, I get it. It's a very strange environment to be in. And, the reality is they will check your wrists. They will check your ankles, that you haven't got cheating things. You won't be allowed to bring a watch in. You had to take off my Whoop. It's like for the free.
Oh, really?
The only few hours I've never had a Whoop on. But
it's not like
you
a
can't bring
Hyrox.
No, we can't bring your water bottle in as such. Yeah. But it's a long exam. It's just like with our workouts, we can create a strategy, just like what we were talking about, go through the easy ones first. Maybe then take your toilet break, go to the toilet, splash water on your face.
Farran, you've got on a bit funny. Hang on.
Oh, am I still funny?
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Hello?
Am I still funny? Am I there? Frozen?
We've lost Farran.
Oh no, but I'm still
I'm
here.
sure she'll be back
And
in
in
a
the
sec.
up.
It's taking
I will,
about 20
because
seconds to. Oh, it's
I'm
just
still
me
here.
then.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hmm.
Can you hear me,
I
little
can't
Jake?
hear.
No. Well, so I can talk
Yeah, all
all
right. So
about
we've had this with StreamYard quite a bit, Farran, in the last week or so. The viewers can watch and see both of us, but one of us can't see or hear each other.
Oh dear. Maybe Steve can be our negotiator.
I can hear. Oh, here we go. We're back. We're back. We're back.
We're
StreamYard's
back.
sorted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. So question for you, Farran. Someone that is like that, someone in that mindset of okay, this situation, this environment isn't conducive, what I would see as productive or my where I work best. I rely heavily on caffeine. Okay. Obviously, I can't take a delicious cup of coffee or an espresso into the exam. In the day before, or the weeks leading up, or the day of, how would you physically? Because that's my domain. I like to talk about physically preparing for stuff. How would you physically prepare for the L3?
Probably getting used to sitting down for 2 or 3 hours in a go, because we can get antsy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a good excuse to go and study.
Yeah.
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 Go sit behind that computer, behind that desk. No, it sounds weird, but yeah, get used to sitting there for 2 or 3 hours. We get ants in our pants. We're people who move.
Yeah. 1,000 milligrams morning of, then do it for time. Yeah, for time. Cool. Okay. Well, yeah.
It
like I
doesn't
said,
always lead to the best quality, Steve.
talking of the open.
Nice.
Cool. Okay. So, okay. Did the open?
I think don't panic. I just want to go back to that. Obviously, don't panic. Don't panic. I know.
Okay.
Yeah. If need be, go take a toilet break. Put water on your face. Yeah. It's a long test. Yeah.
Okay. So typically, I don't know what this says about me, but when I'm put under severe pressure, I just go, and this wave is, it's not conscious. It's not a choice. My brain just goes, and I go too relaxed a lot of the time. I don't panic. It's the opposite, and I don't know why. I need to remind myself of that, because before a workout, like the open workout, I was like stressing about how I do and blah 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 blah, and then 3, 2, 1, and I just go, this is cool. I need to remind myself of that. Obviously, we're all going to be different, but generally speaking, I think CrossFit trainers and coaches and owners are relatively cut from the same cloth for the most part. There's a reason we walk around the gyms and coach and gob off a lot of the time, and we don't want to be in an office environment. So that's cool. So the L3 just reminds us of that, and it is what it is. It is what it is. So you got to find a way to get it done.
And you know what? You can approach it from a view of curiosity. Okay, what type of questions will they actually ask me? Yeah, what's the stuff that because you sign an NDA, so I can't discuss the questions themselves. So you're like, oh, finally, I get to see what's on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. And then,
Sorry, and Steve, just to answer your question, if you can leave early, yeah, you can leave whenever you want to. So,
halfway through.
Yeah, well, I'll put in an app later when I left, but that's a discussion for another time. But what is interesting is that when you finish the test, the computer doesn't tell you if you've passed or failed. You have to go back into the reception, and they have to print out a sheet for you to give you your results. Oh yeah. So Jake's just looking at me puzzled.
So Dave or Sally that are set behind the desk print off a sheet of paper and hand it to you with a yes or a no on it.
Yeah. Well,
That's
so I
brilliant.
got it. So I came out and she goes, "Oh, so did you pass?" I was like, "I don't know." And she goes, "Oh, I maybe have to give you a piece of paper. Let me see." "Oh, I do." She goes, and so she's Dutch, reading it in English. She goes, "I think this is good." I
Uh,
was like,
nice.
"Okay, that's good." Yeah. So,
Excellent. Oh, good. Oh, I hope they're good people. I'd hate
oh,
it
they
for them to
are.
print it off and go, "Ooh,
Well,
a
I
bit."
think most people who work for View Pearson are good. I mean, they see many people coming in there doing tests every day. So,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well,
mm,
hopefully we'll have another chat about this in a couple of weeks' time, and I can
yeah.
bring back, I can go away and bring back my learnings and what I did, if that's okay with
Good.
you.
What worked? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what worked for you? Because I think this is the other thing we need to be aware of. What worked for me and what worked for some other coaches I know and stuff like that will not work for everybody.
Mm,
Yeah, it's just like we all have a slightly different squat. We all have a slightly different way of being successful in these type of tests.
yes. Well, and
So,
a perfect example of that is bum, ba, bum, 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 bum. Hang on, if it loads. Oh, that was so anticlimactic. It's not loading up.
it's like there's
Um,
nothing on my screen.
no, it's taken a while. I think this thing. So this is a perfect example of movement progressions. So
Mhm,
it's the same thing as if it's spot the flaw with ourselves and our knowledge and our application of it. We need to understand where we need to develop personally, because
yeah.
one thing that might help someone else pass is one thing that we've already got going on, and the fact that we've got
Mhm,
different sections of the exam
yeah.
goes to show that as well. So yeah.
And I think don't get lost in the weeds as such.
Mm,
So for example, screening and ongoing assessment is only 8% of the test. There's only 11 questions on it.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
compared to
Mm,
34 questions for teaching. So don't get lost in the
mm,
weeds. Don't get lost in the
okay.
details. A lot
Yeah.
of this you know already.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Um, so briefly touch before I let you get back to your real life. Instead of telling
This
me
is my real
it's
life,
all
Jake.
okay.
This is it.
It's all okay, Jake. It's all okay. This is basically therapy for me. Um, the Open.
Hmm.
How do you feel as a whole, as a coach from your coach's hat?
Hmm. Yeah.
How did you feel like the Open went?
I think it was a good mix of tests that were accessible to the majority of members as such. Um, I know people wanted really heavy barbells and stuff like that, but the reality is for most people, they don't need that. And yes, the open is the time when we want to test them and let them compete. And that's where maybe also their quality of movement starts breaking down, but you don't want it to break down to the point where they get injured.
No.
Yeah. I think part of me would have loved something like 26.2 in as 26.3. So we had those woohoo moments, those firsts, those whatever. But I also appreciate that the last workout was just people can keep moving. They can keep moving. They can keep throwing themselves over a bar. They can keep flopping on the ground. Yeah.
Mm,
And yeah, every now and then they'll stare at the barbell, but they will pick it up eventually. Whereas when you have the first pull ups and the first chest to bars and first ring muscle ups, there's a lot of people just staring at the bar. Um,
mm,
I think if I look at the overall programming for it, um, I think it's a good test to figure out who the top 25% are because it tests the basic abilities. Yeah, if people can't do well in these three tests,
mm,
they're not going to do well in the quarters. They've no capacity and skill to be able to do the other movements.
mm. Great shout. And one thing, and you might have actually helped me explain something there to myself, was I feel like I have got no business qualifying for the quarters. I
Mhm.
feel like I shouldn't have. And if I look back at all three of these workouts, the first one I found was about explosivity and your ability to move over that box, because the wall balls were basically, no matter what people said, the wall balls are all of it's challenging, right? I think we can all agree it was all uncomfortable and it's all challenging, right? That's done, right? We've parked that. In terms of the first workout, I think the ability to move over that box was the different, how difficult it was for you to get over and traverse the box, like Abby found in the extreme case. But for me as well, lack of cartilage in the knees isn't conducive with regular box jumping and going through that. Things like double unders I pay for about a week after. So I've learned the skill and I keep it for testing. I should probably involve it more with workouts, but I tend to avoid it year round because of the impact it has. And I get shown up when it comes in tests. And week one for me was more about the ability to move over that box than the wall balls. The wall balls I didn't find too challenging. They're a basic movement that we do each week.
There was no change. There was no change of standard, and the volume was high as such. But a wall ball is a wall ball, and I think you're right with the box jump. With the box jump overs, you're looking for explosive movement under fatigue, and that's probably what you were missing as well in your training, because you don't do box jump overs when you're fatigued, when you're properly deep fatigued. Yeah, and that's, I think, for a lot of people was the differentiator.
And my lack of that in week one basically was exposed by how well I did in week 3 comparatively, because cleans, thrusters, and burpee over bar, I'm fine for. Like I'm good for those movements. And because I've been doing CrossFit long enough, they are a staple of weekly programming.
You don't have to think about it.
No, they're very basic. It's all, for me, that workout the last workout for the normal, everyday, bog standard gym affiliate attendee like myself. It came down to understanding your capacity at any given point during that 16 minutes. How am I doing? How well can I push? How much do I need to rein it in? How much rest time do I need? If you've got autonomy over your body and you are understanding of your capacity, but for experience, that workout was a dream, because you know when to push and rein it in. You're working that pedal constantly, that clutch. You know, you're working and working. Whereas lack of experience was shown up, I feel like, on that last workout.
I would also make it even more subtle. A lot of lack of experience and lack of reflection on what people do in their workouts. So if athletes had not been reflecting on what they've been doing in the workouts, if their only mode was, and we were talking about stress earlier, you want a bit of stress and then you want that the body, adapts to stress, but you don't want to go to exhaustion every time. If they're only used to going to exhaustion and that's the measure of success, as exhaustion as early as possible in the workout, and they never reflect on, okay, how did I get to this point? Then they were never going to do well in 26.3, because they have no, as you said, they've no awareness of their pacing. They've no awareness of how their body reacts to this stress.
And there's another type of athlete that usually hides behind higher skill. So people in the gym that can do ring muscle ups or bar muscle ups, a lot of the time, the separator between them and other people, and this shows up during the open, is if you don't have that higher skill, you're further down the rankings. All you need to do is do 1 or 2 reps and you surpass everyone else that can't do it. Week 2, I had a problem with that because I did 3 ring muscle ups. That's all I was able to get to. But I paced it from the start. I'm a one and done person, so it was a risk, but I gave myself 3.5 minutes and I did one attempt every minute roughly, and I nailed all of them. I had no business beating people that are so much fitter than me at that workout, because I've got a higher skill base that I've learned over the last 14, 15 years. For me, that's not a test of fitness per se, but from a CrossFit perspective, I understand that it is. So I understand where that came from. But people that did really well in week 2, what would you? So as a L3 perspective, L4, what would you say it says about an athlete at the gym if they were really good week 2 but poor on week 3? What would that demonstrate in their programming?
I think they're missing the foundations. They're missing the foundation movements. I'd be very surprised. Now, could have phrased it slightly differently. In my eyes, if you did well in week 2, that means you finished the workout in 8 minutes. Yeah.
Right.
9 minutes.
Yeah.
You're well under the time cap as such. And then if you did that, I'd be very surprised you didn't get to the round of 5 thrusters in week 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that is the case, then there's something very strange going on with your programming when it comes to barbell movements. Yeah, that would be my instinct. That you focus so much on skill that you haven't figured out, okay, how do I move this barbell 12 times without getting out of breath, without losing quality of movement, stuff like that.
Perfectly put. I know a few people like that, and I've talked to a couple of people that have been in that boat, and it's nice to hear from your perspective, because I've kind of you've said what I was thinking. Like I knew what I meant, but I didn't know how to articulate it. And I think there's this ability of people throughout the year, they need to feel like their training is actually a test every time, because they haven't understood what intensity is, and they don't understand the longer form health and longevity perspective, because they're clouded by the racing side of it, and they see that as the glorious part of what we do, which it kind of is. It's the tip of the spear. But I think too many people get wound up and think a bit every session they're doing should be like that. And again, I will return back to CAP, looking at CAP the last couple of months, following along, not having done it, but following it along and looking every day at the style of the workouts that come, the cycle that it goes through, the 5x5 back squat, 7x1, split jerk,
sprints and stuff, and you name it, it's in
beautiful. There. And I get why most gym owners can't implement that. I get it. But purely from a developmental and pure CrossFit methodology perspective, it is a thing of beauty. But with the caveat of, you have to be nailing the bottom of the pyramid for all of it to work.
So I would also, this is maybe a discussion for another time, but I mean, CAP is as close as you can get to the CrossFit methodology. Now we have Proven and Mayhem and HWPO and all that, but that's their version of a methodology. As such, they have all their own vision. And if you compare them to CAP, you will see there's distinct differences between them. Yeah. So if you are a coach who's using a different program than CAP, keep going doing it, but go and have a look at deeper into CAP and really get a true understanding of what the methodology looks like. Because Mayhem, HWPO, Proven, all of them, that's not the CrossFit methodology. Controversial maybe, but
no. If they were, they wouldn't be called Mayhem. They'd just be doing what cross. Like, they have to have a point of difference.
Yeah,
that you have to have a point of difference in order to sell what you're doing. If they kept it exactly the same as CrossFit, people would say, "Well, I'm not going to pay for it. I'll just use CAP. I'll go on the main site and use theirs."
Well, this is an interesting discussion, maybe for a bigger group of people. It's like, why aren't people using CAP? Yeah, what is it about CAP that they think is not good enough or doesn't match their members' needs? So that's also an interesting discussion.
Yeah, and so Trish and I talk offline about this, and I know Trish follows CAP when she can, when her caravan is trailers parked near a CrossFit affiliate. But it's this, again, we're talking about marrying up like the reality and practical and theoretical side of stuff. And this is a question for a whole nother topic, does the marketplace marry up with, or the demands of the paying customer realistically marry up with CAP? Can we align those two things through education, through content, through understanding, and also what we talked about earlier? Do all affiliate coaches and owners know what is available on the affiliate toolkit?
Yeah, so I think there's also, we have to remember, there's a lot of affiliate owners and coaches who haven't nerded out on programming, who don't appreciate necessarily what the differences are, what CAP offers, what Mayhem offers, and understanding the differences, and then being able to explain that to their members and explaining the underlying methodology. If you ran I mean, people are like, yeah, I can't just do a workout around 5x5. I was like, yeah, but that's also down to expectations and norms and values and things like that.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I have to stuff it full of 100 things, otherwise people feel like they haven't done anything. Yeah, but you can stuff it full with teaching, seeing, correcting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
stuff it full with volume. Sorry.
No. No.
That's,
That,
I,
the volume trap is something I think Hyrox has played a part in that. Not actually the company Hyrox, that would be libelous.
no.
The emphasis at the affiliate level of pushing people towards Hyrox style training. Yeah, today we're going to do a
Yeah.
marathon row. It's like, people don't need a marathon row. But yeah, let's do 45-minute EMOM of this. Okay, cool. Once every 3 weeks, cool, as part of that programming. But we
Yeah.
need to talk more. For me, there's an easy win here, right? Is if you can talk at the affiliate level and educate your members on nutrition, there's a reason it's at the base of the pyramid. Once people understand, if you nail your nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
you do not need to move to burn off those calories so you can have a glass of wine and a chocolate cake. If
Yeah.
your nutrition is nailed, a 5x5 back squat is enough. You don't need to feel bad about not moving as much, because we understand about force production and power output.
Yeah.
We understand that a 5x5, yesterday, my whole session yesterday, I did 5x3 bench. And then I did some finishers with some cable flies and some push downs. I was wrecked after my bench session because I understand how far to push my body. Now, if you're a beginner at the gym, you're not going to be pushing that intensity level. You're going to be learning, adapting new skills and understanding. That comes from down to the education and the coaching. If your coaching and your education at the affiliate level are bang on, everything else comes out of that. It sprouts there.
Yeah.
And I understand for me, this is where it's for anyone and not everyone. This is where that comes into play again. Not everyone will want to come in and be educated, talked about nutrition and do a 5x5 back squat. And that's okay.
I think there's two things going on here. First, I'm going to go on, we have to give members what they want first in order to be able to give them what they need, but we can still educate them about what their wants are and how relevant they are. That's the first part. The second part is we also can't forget that the CrossFit methodology is generally designed 3 days on, one day off, that people are coming 5, 6, 7 days a week to the box. And the reality of, in most countries, certainly in the Benelux region and in Europe, most people only come 1 or 2 times a week. So then it's even more important that we can explain to them the idea of, constantly varied functional movement at high intensity and what that looks like and what it doesn't look like. And yeah, I know, I get it. Some people think that the only way they get fitter is by ending up in a sweaty heap on the ground. Yeah, the cardio fitness. But it's like, that's where you can start educating people, I'm telling you to take 2.5 minutes between these heavy lifts because, your central nervous system, you don't feel it in your heart and your lungs, but the rest of your body does. And educating them that, it's not all about, Jane Fonda cardio exercises as such. That's not the only part of fitness. So,
yeah, for sure. Good morning, Heidi. Yeah, we've had some clarification from Trish the Dish. The ones that didn't like it aren't at the gym anymore. But I think, it's not an easy win. It's not an easy answer, and it won't work for everyone. That's why there's so much variance in terms of what's available. But it would be a really interesting topic to have on someone that does use CAP in the UK. So I might put that question out. That's a really good shout.
I think you should
I'll do, I'll put a thing out. Does anyone out there, affiliate owners, does anyone in the UK follow CAP? Would you mind coming on the show to talk about it?
Yeah, and what their learnings are and stuff like that. Because I think people looked at CAP to start with and felt it was too much. There was too much expected in it. And CAP was going, yeah, but this is an example. You can still adapt it. You don't have to do every single thing in this. However, this is the way of approaching it. And I think, as the comment with the 5x5, that a lot of people treat those first 3 sets as warming up sets. And that's exactly what CAP ensures doesn't happen, because they make sure there's a whole phase of teaching beforehand where people, it's a specific warming up. They're specifically warming up to get ready for that 5x5. So that 5x5 is a true 5x5. and not just something squeezed into 18 minutes before Metcon.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Where are we today? March the
15th. We've got St. Patrick's Day in a couple of days.
Oh, it is, isn't it? There's a ferry booked from the island to Dublin.
Oh, it's going to be dangerous.
We have a lot of Irish people on the island. So about the workout now, if I can find it really quickly, this class plan. Here we go. Whiteboard. You've got 4 minutes, 14 minutes to go through. General warm up, dynamic warm up, and then ending. I'm sure we'd have had a heavy day at some point. Trish will be able to tell me.
Yeah, I think we had heavy on Monday this week. We had heavy snatches.
Right. Okay.
We were looking at it to try and guess try and predict what the open workouts were.
Oh yes, yeah, you're right there. So general warm up, PVC pipe, increase it, looking at go through, dynamic warm up,
and then go down to specific warm up.
Specific warm, going through. Snatch 8 minutes. Shrugs, doing the Bergner warm up. I'm assuming. Speed for nil. And then the workout at a glance, and then the cool down. So it's all there. It's the 20 minutes is to build. But
it's
again,
all there. There's coaches' notes. There's videos. There's everything you possibly need to understand. There are progressions built in. Maybe they're not your progressions. You can choose something else, but there's progressions built in as well.
My only slight thing is with this is obviously we get it the morning of, don't we?
No, we get it a week beforehand. So next week's is already there. Yeah, next week's should all keep going forward.
Okay. Oh yeah, 15th, 16th. Amazing.
16th, 17th, 18th. So you have it. So I think it was. I could be wrong. I think it's Mondays. It's released for the week afterwards. So that's why we lost a lot of time analyzing what last week's workouts were and this coming week's workouts were to figure out what the open was.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So there's another thing. So if you and Annie's a great example, right? What the time cap on would you put on Annie? We've got them here, obviously.
So they have a time cap there. Yeah. Because I think at the end of the. Sorry, go on.
The whole workout, if you gave this and you just put basically the workout of the day like it used to be, Annie, and you look and you go, well, that's only going to take 10 minutes. Okay, cool. Yeah. Then here we
now
go.
Look what they do.
Now we've got all of this going through general warm-up. We've got specific warm-ups. We've got everything like that. We've got the break. We've got the workouts. We've got the cool-downs. We've got everything geared up. And then, skill work, handstand walk progressions at the end.
Yeah.
There's so much more to it.
And this is the thing, doing skill work after workout is also a good idea because people are practicing under fatigue.
Yeah. And where did we find that? Where did we see that come up when people kind of found it hard?
2
weeks ago, when people got to the rings that I can normally do rings, and then they get there and they can't. There's a reason for that because you don't do skill work under fatigue. And again,
I mean, even if coaches or and affiliate owners are not using CAP programming, I would definitely dive in, have a look at how they do the progressions, have a look at how they teach the movements, have a look at their cool downs, have a look at the skill work and stuff like that, because it is yet another source you can be inspired by, that you can bring to your classes, that you can experiment with.
Yeah. And to rein all of this back to the question that we opened with, the L3.
Yeah.
For me, that has been a complete game changer. Opening up CAP, looking at today's workout, looking at from a CrossFit perspective, all of this information. It takes 20 minutes every morning just to go through, skim through, have a look. Is there a point where I'll go, oh, right, I wouldn't have done that or anything like that, So
there's probably points where you go, oh, that's not a smart choice. I don't think my members could do all that in 6 minutes. Okay.
Well, I found that they've changed it on CAP for the workout on Friday, the open workout when it came out. It said expect the elites to get this done under 9 minutes. And I read that, I was like, absolutely no chance.
No.
And it's been changed.
So as a slight aside, there was a discussion. I would love to have been a fly on the wall for whoever tested that workout out with Dave originally to see what feedback they gave, because
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, there you go. Farran, it's we've done an hour and a half now, and
I know
you know, I only
we've just
asked for
been
an hour of your time.
babbling on about everything, so
It's great. It's great. You're a fountain of knowledge, which I absolutely love, and it's an amazing opportunity for me to kind of have you on here. So thank you ever so much.
My pleasure.
Are you
I want to add one thing. I do want to add one thing. Yeah, if you got your level 2, do not be scared of the level 3. Don't be scared of it. Just start digging in and being curious, because if nothing else, even if you don't plan to take the level 3 in the coming weeks or months, you're going to gain so much out of it to improve your own coaching. Yeah.
Perfect.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you very much, Farran. Guys, thank you for joining me in the chat. Hope that was of some value. And everyone watching after the fact, thank you so much. And I'm sure Farran and I will be back very soon to discuss all things.
All things.
Everything. All things. This is the All Things show. Okay. Nice one. Thank you very much, guys. See you soon. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.